Hello students, welcome to the lecture on benchmarking, and after this lecture we will be able to learn the following objectives. Describe the benchmarking objectives, explain the typical steps for benchmarking, describe the Xerox benchmarking process, explain the gaining competitive edge through world-class manufacturing, define the value engineering. Let's start with the concept of benchmarking. Benchmarking is a continuous systematic process of measuring one's output and or work processes against the toughest competitors or those recognized best in the industry. Benchmarking is an ongoing investigation and learning experience. It ensures that the best practices are uncovered, adopted and implemented. Benchmarking is a process of industrial research that enables managers to perform company-to-company comparisons of processes and practices to identify the best of the best and to attain a level of superiority or competitive advantage. Benchmarking is a method of establishing performance goals and quality improvement projects based on industry best practices. It is one of the most exciting new tools in the quality field. Searching out and emulating the best can fuel the motivation of everyone involved, often producing breakthrough results.
Benchmarking has a long history going back to the early days of evolution. Comparison has always been the essence of winning, and being able to react quickly and appropriately has helped men overcome significant hurdles. Since then, benchmarking has evolved, but it is still an integral part of our daily lives. Benchmarking is an activity that tells you your position or status by comparing yourself to others. The reason for comparing is to understand where you are today and what might be some of the areas that you need to improve. In business today, it is vital that we compare ourselves to others. We need to know, am I making more money than my competitors? How does my business compare to the rest within the same industry? Are there others out there that have similar problems? Have they solved them already? If yes, then what worked for them? Am I the top or the bottom of the class? Comparisons are great. However, there is a catch. Only things that are comparable can be compared, if the result is to be useful. When these comparisons are done correctly, it is called benchmarking. First, you need to define what you want to benchmark. For example, benchmarking your financial performance, brand reputation, staff motivation, etc. Second, define appropriate comparators. We call them key performance indicators, or KPIs. Some KPIs for financial performance could be sales, margin, productivity. Third, ensure that your comparisons are comparable. We do this by defining segments within a network. For example, it might not make sense to compare a store in metropolitan Sydney to a store in regional New South Wales, so we would divide or segment stores based on their location. Fourth, gather data in an independent manner and make sure it is consistent. We do this by automatically collecting and mapping your data into a standard chart of accounts. And lastly, produce customized and meaningful reports that are not only simple to understand, but show you your improvement over time. Once benchmarking has been successfully implemented,
Let us now discuss the benchmarking objectives. The purpose of benchmarking is derived primarily from the need to establish credible goals and pursue continuous improvement. It is a direction-setting process, but more important, it is a means by which the practices needed to reach new goals are discovered and understood. Benchmarking legitimizes goals based on an external orientation instead of extrapolating from internal practices and past trends. Because the external environment changes so rapidly, goal setting, which is internally focused, often fails to meet what customers expect from their suppliers. Customer expectations are driven by the standards set by the best suppliers in the industry, as well as by great experiences with suppliers in other industries. By helping understand how industry leaders do things, benchmarking helps identify what must be changed. And by showing what is possible and what other companies have done, benchmarking creates a picture of how the organization should look after the change. Embarking on a benchmarking activity requires acceptance of the following fundamentals. Know the operation, assess strengths and weaknesses. This should involve documentation of work process steps and practices, as well as a definition of the critical performance measurements used. Know industry leaders and competitors. Capabilities can be differentiated only by knowing the strengths and weaknesses of the leaders. Types of benchmarking. Benchmarking is a very versatile tool that can be applied in a variety of ways to meet a range of requirements for improvement. Different terms are used to distinguish the various ways of applying benchmarking. The first word in each term relates to either the type of partner or the purpose for benchmarking. At the outset of benchmarking project, it is vital to be clear on exactly what it is to be achieved through benchmarking and apply an appropriate methodology. Standard benchmarking terms include strategic benchmarking, performance benchmarking or competitive benchmarking, process benchmarking, functional benchmarking or generic benchmarking, internal benchmarking, external benchmarking, international benchmarking. Strategic benchmarking is used where organizations seek to improve their overall performance by examining the long-term strategies and general approaches that have enabled high performers to succeed. Performance benchmarking or competitive benchmarking is used where organizations consider their position in relation to performance characteristics of key products and services. Process benchmarking is used when the focus is on improving specific critical processes and operation. Benchmarking partners are sought from best practice organizations that perform similar work or deliver similar services. Process benchmarking invariably involves producing process maps to facilitate comparison and analysis. This type of benchmarking can result in benefits in the short term. Functional benchmarking or general benchmarking is used when organizations look to benchmark with partners drawn from different business sectors or areas of activity to find ways of improving similar functions or work processes. This sort of benchmarking can lead to innovation and dramatic improvements. Internal benchmarking involves seeking partners from within the same organization, for example, from business units located in different areas. The main advantages of internal benchmarking are that access to sensitive data and information are easier. Standardized data is often readily available and usually less time and resources are needed. There may be fewer barriers to implementation as practices may be relatively easy to transfer across the same organization. Let us now discuss the typical steps for benchmarking. In any benchmarking process, it is essential to follow a systematic and structural approach. It is best if the project is carried forward by trained and dedicated cross-functional teams so that all aspects of the process are properly discussed at all phases and analyzed for any opportunities and improvement action can be initiated. Step 1. Determine processes to be benchmarked. This step involves defining as accurately as possible the process to be benchmarked. It is the cornerstone of the entire benchmarking process. An incorrect identification at this stage could result in a waste of precious resources at later stages. Consider the following question. Have departmental priorities been established? Determine whether the department has strongly defined its overall purpose. This includes setting long-term goals and short-term objectives. What is the level of change? Does an entire system require rethinking? Perhaps a particular process within that system needs to be improved. Can improvement be achieved by upgrading some particular tasks within the process? Has the work process to be selected been flowcharted? A good first step in gaining an overview of the entire process is to flowchart it. This will help identify problem areas and locate potential trouble areas, then establish the critical measurement by which to compare future progress. How much change is possible? Given your organization resources and circumstances, find out whether reforming the process is affordable at the determined level of change. Step 2. Determine organization to be benchmarked. This step determines which organization should be studied by identifying the best of the best organization whose practices can be adapted to your requirements. An incorrect choice could lead to electing partners that are not true benchmarks for the selected process, that are uncooperative, or whose practices are incompatible or irrelevant to your needs. Consider the following questions. From which sources could an effective partner list most likely be created? Research which publish sources, industry, periodicals, annual reports, etc. would yield the most useful, accurate and up-to-date information. Find out which reliable individuals or groups, industry experts, watchdog groups, etc. could be consulted to expand the list. A good source to consult is a library, either corporate or public. Librarians usually are eager to help in such efforts. Which of the preliminary organization selected are really the best of the best? Determine which prospective partners truly are the benchmark for your organization. Are the systems of the selected organization really comparable? Select the organization with practices that are the most compatible with yours. Step 3. Gather data. This step involves creating a plan for collecting data from selected targets, conducting site visits and creating a site visit report. The correct implementation of this step will result in data that can be used directly to enhance your organization performance. Incorrect implementation of this step could result in data that is useless or inadequate to your purpose. Consider the following question. Has an adequate data collection plan been created? Determine what are the simplest data sources and the most difficult. Then figure out which data would have the most value. Other important factors are the time and cost limitation of collecting data. Step 4. Analyze for gaps. This step involves analyzing the data collected, discovering to what degree present performance lags behind the best in each area and combining the best features from the best practices into an ideal process. The correct implementation of this step will result in a clear picture of your processes in comparison with others in your business or industry. The incorrect implementation of this step should result in vague information that would not ultimately be useful in improving your operation. Consider the following question. Step 5. Determine future trends. During this step, your team will examine your organization's past performance in relation to its competitors, forecast potential change in your industry and project future performance both with and without the proposed benchmarking changes. The correct implementation of this step will give management a clear idea of its options and allot it a realistic conception of the potential benefits of adopting the benchmarking practices. Step 6. Reveal results and sell the process. This step involves communicating the benchmarking results and their implication to significant audiences in the organization and motivating them to carry out changes. Step 7. Achieve consensus on revised goals. This step involves revising goals to close the performance gap determined in Step 5 and achieving consensus on those goals. Step 8. Establish action plans. This step establishes the step-by-step plan designed to bring about the goals created and approved in Step 7. Step 9. Implement plans and monitor results. This step involves executing the approved best practice procedure and the day-to-day monitoring of changes. Correct implementation of this step will result in a closely watched process in which deviation from the plan will be corrected and the ultimate goals achieved. Step 10. Recalibrate benchmarks. This step ensures the organization remains on the cutting edge by continuously evaluating the benchmarked practices and reinstituting the benchmarking process when necessary.
The 5 steps to use benchmarking to improve profits. It is rumored that the process of benchmarking was started by cobblers. A person would place their foot on a bench, and then the cobbler would draw an outline of the foot as a measurement for correct shoe size. Benchmarking today allows companies to compare themselves with similar companies in the same area of business or geographic location. The modern-day process of benchmarking or measuring has been used by many companies to drive out expenses, improve productivity, and customer service levels. Today we will review the 5 steps to use benchmarking to improve profits. Step number 1. Planning. Planning is the major step in the benchmarking process. We start planning by identifying the area or process to be benchmarked. Priority should be given to an area of significant impact on the profitability of the business. Next, we establish the desired end result. This could be a guarantee of delivery of a product or service within a certain time frame, or a guarantee of 100% accuracy on an order or service. After the desired result has been established, then the benchmarking team, made up of people who are involved in delivering that product or service, is established. There must be an owner of the particular process improvement team empowered to make the appropriate decisions or be able to interface with senior management to get results. Having a management accountant involved gives the team the big picture view of the business. If the benchmarking involves a similar industry, there needs to be a set of criteria established to select a company for benchmarking. Criteria such as size, market share, geographic location can all be established. The company may be a similar company but located thousands of miles away. For example, a restaurant serving similar food to a similar client demographic located in Vancouver could be benchmarked against a restaurant located in Montreal. Finally, we must determine the methods of collecting information. Sources for information inside the company should always be used. Sales and customer service people, along with the end customer users, are excellent resources. Information on generic benchmarking on numerous industries is available through us here at Numbers Plus. This can help you look at similar businesses in many different cities in your immediate region or across the country. Step number 2. Data gathering. The success of any data gathering depends upon the quality of the questions used to ask the participants. The team should explore all question types from multiple choices, open-ended, scaled, and forced answer questions. Test the type of questions internally using some known data to see if the desired results can be obtained by using different question styles. Step number 3. Analysis and integration. In this step, we can begin to compare the data gathered about the process involved with the companies we've chosen to benchmark against. The company that is rated highest in the process being measured and our company performance is compared. The difference in the performance between the two companies is referred to as the current performance gap. This gap can be positive, negative, or zero. The negative gap is the one we are concerned with, as it indicates an area where we need improvement. We now need to project the gap further out to ensure that we are targeting future expectations and not just the current status quo. A list of issues must be created and the corresponding actions to be taken to close the performance gap. Step number 4. Implementation and execution. The first phase of implementation and execution is obtaining approval from management on the recommendations and course of action. When presenting this data to management, there must be a logical flow to arguments put forth, including factual data with realistic solutions. Once the recommendations have been accepted by management, then a set of action plans needs to be developed. Goals and objectives must be clearly defined and understood by the implementation team to ensure everyone is kept focused and on schedule. Progress during the implementation stage must be monitored and reported to the group daily to resolve any issues that are created and to ensure training is provided to overcome resistance to change. In certain cases, goals may have to be adjusted as unforeseen obstacles could now reveal themselves during implementation. Step number 5. recalibration. Recalibration is the process of constantly reviewing benchmarks to ensure that they're up to date and can react to competitive pressures. A regular review of benchmarking keeps the company thinking of the future and making changes to improve profits. Let's look at a restaurant business as an example of benchmarking. The business owner has decided to benchmark his business, as even though the restaurant appears to be full, he feels he's not receiving the maximum revenue from his clients. Also, a large number of customers have expressed dissatisfaction over delays in receiving their orders. Many customers feel they're not getting good service from their server, as they can, quote, never be found. Over a 90-minute period, on a typical night, our restaurant serves 30 meals with a value of $35 per meal. Since the flow of food orders has a major impact on the business, we've decided to benchmark this process. We benchmarked this restaurant against other family restaurants with a similar menu, clientele, and demographic. As part of the planning process, we created 3 questionnaires targeting 3 of the major groups affected by the order cycle. The customers, the servers, and the kitchen staff were all given simple questionnaires to help us gather our data. The customers were asked how much time is acceptable between ordering and receiving their food. The serving staff was asked what is preventing them from spending more time with their customers and what in their view is the delay in getting food to their customers. The kitchen staff was asked what was required to help get food orders completed faster and with less backup. In summary, the data revealed that the customers wanted their food orders within 15 minutes, plus they wanted to be able to have contact with their server during that time. The serving staff answered that they could spend more time with the customers and increase the amount of food and drink ordered by each table, but were preoccupied with standing near the kitchen to keep track of food orders. The kitchen staff said that if orders would not come in all at once, they could handle the workload. If they had better visibility to the food orders, they could adjust accordingly. When we approached another restaurant in a city 500 miles away, they were happy to learn that this restaurant had the same challenges. This restaurant had a great reputation and was handling 50 meals at $125 per customer over the same time period. The major difference between the 2 restaurants was that the successful restaurant had implemented wireless technology into the ordering process. The serving staff had a small wireless touchscreen handheld device that had all the menu options on the screen. The server could send the food order to the kitchen staff immediately without walking to the kitchen. This gave the kitchen staff better visibility and better order flow, thus keeping their workload more even. Any drink orders were sent via the wireless devices as well, so when the server walked to the bar, the drinks were ready to be picked up. The server could spend more time at the table. This gave an image of increased customer service as well as the server had a chance to upsell things such as wine and appetizers as they build rapport with the clients. This would also reduce the feelings by the customers that their server was, quote, gone, and now the server would only leave the table when the drinks or food was ready. The expected results would be an increase of 10% of revenue in the first 3 months and 20% in the second 3 months, with the ultimate goal of a 45% increase in sales. There are additional suggestions about using wireless technology to target business customers. Giving customers free wireless access in the restaurant and possibly the construction of a small meeting room that could be used by businesses, not wanting to have the expense of a hotel meeting room. Once management accepted the ideas, then the action plans were put into place. Software and hardware was installed, servers were trained on the handheld devices, and the project was implemented. The results were as projected, and the business has incorporated benchmarking as a culture to expand on new ideas and to create a better work environment. As the benchmarking process develops, it soon becomes embedded in the culture of an organization. The culture of constant and continuous improvement allows for businesses to always be recalibrating themselves to adjust to market forces. Employees in this environment are always embracing change. They're on the lookout for ways to improve methods and policies and products every day. It becomes part of their role in the organization. The small improvements in day-to-day processes will accumulate over the months, and the organization will find itself getting better and better without any major initiatives. If you're planning to sell your business, being able to show a prospective buyer or investors that you have benchmarked the business will have a positive impact on the price that gets offered.
Levels of benchmarking. Benchmarking occurs when one organization takes another organization's best operating practices and makes it their own. 7 levels of benchmarking. There are different forms of best practices benchmarking intensity, beginning with a basic level and processing to the most involved effective form. Level 1. Learn from past success. Success analysis documents focus on a corporate specific tasks. Oftentimes, such efforts reveal centers of competency that can be exploited by other areas of the business. Virtually anything sales meeting reports, representative review, projects, sales transformation programs can be captured and assessed in this way. Knowledge management software programs exist to support this function. Level 2. Borrow good ideas. These ideas originate from outside the organization and are freely available. Ideas can come from research, observation and inference, all sourced from the public domain. What is important is that the idea is already working for some other salesperson or sales organization. Level 3. Best in company. This type of benchmarking captures a certain follow-up activity in companies collecting large amounts of CRM data. Through assessment of data in various dashboard systems, sales executives spot top performance. Level 4. Industry standard. This type of benchmarking and the next 3 that follow all require comparison of internal performance to external performance. What differs in each is the degree of excellence represented by the external sample set. Level 5. Industry leadership. This type of benchmarking focuses on exceeding top competitors' performance in the sales function, not just achieving parity. The ability to demonstrate such superiority rests partly on the discipline of competitive intelligence. Level 6. Best in country. Achieving this designation may have significance to the organization based on its customer base, market and geography. Those selling to government organizations or those in relatively close economies will value this highly. Level 7. World class. The urge to be the Babe Ruth of benchmarking is irresistible. Sales leaders particularly are on the hunt for the big idea that is easily adopted and yields breakthrough results. Practices and performance levels benchmarking can be divided into 2 parts: practices and performance levels. From experience, most managers now understand that benchmarking should first focus on industry best practices. The performance levels that result from these practices can be analyzed and synthesized later. Benchmarking is a useful tool for leaders because it is meant to ensure the best possible quality in whatever it is that they do. It gives leverage through new ideas, accelerates change, and is a catalyst for learning. Benchmarking can help sensitize your employees and organization to the need for change. It can be an integral part of formulating goals for improvement. Their 8-step process is meant to occur in 5 phases: planning, analysis, integration, action, and maturity. Planning. Identify what to benchmark. You decide that any type of fundraising will be included. This can include auction, all kinds of sales, asking for donation, performances, applying for grants, etc. Find comparative companies. Other student organizations are chosen as a comparative companies analysis. Determine the current gap in performance. Come up with averages across groups. What was the biggest money maker? Integration. Communicate your findings and gain acceptance. Gather your group for a meeting and show them the bottom line figures you came up with. Action. Develop an action plan. When is the best time for you to do your fundraiser? Set the action plan around this time frame. Are you going to try and reach the broadest group of potential donors that you possibly can, or would it be more prudent for you to target specific people as donors? Maybe your product or method of fundraising would be particularly successful with certain people. Implement your specification and monitor the progress. When the people in your group are doing the fundraiser, they should keep track of how much they do on a regular basis. Maturity. Attain a leadership position in your field or area. After you have been benchmarking what other groups are doing and creating success for your own group's fundraising activities, you will have knowledge regarding fundraising that others do not. Fully integrate your new practices into processes. A very successful fundraiser can be implemented into your group processes, so it is a permanent fixture in your yearly or bi-yearly agenda. Motorola's 5-step process. Six Sigma is a quality improvement program that was originated by Motorola. Defining the problem in Six Sigma involves narrowing the focus. Measure. Gathering accurate data is the second step in the process. Analysis. Defects or errors are identified during the analysis process. Improve. Recommendation based on the previous analysis are made in this step. Control. Control in Six Sigma means measuring and sustaining the new process. Example. Define. The documentation process is not being followed, resulting in the product not being delivered within the time frame the customer expects 50% of the time. Measure. Determining who touches the paperwork, when and how will provide quantifiable data.
Hello class, today we will overview Six Sigma.
Professor Siegfried, who developed Six Sigma?
Well Jack, Six Sigma is a business management strategy originally developed by Motorola in the United States of America in 1986. Today, it is widely used in many sectors of industry.
Professor, just what does Six Sigma do?
Well Jack, Six Sigma seeks to improve the quality of process outputs by identifying and removing the causes of defects, errors, and minimizing variability in manufacturing and business processes. It uses a set of quality management methods, including statistical methods, and creates a special infrastructure of employees within the organization. Employees become trained as black belts, green belts, etc., and are experts in these methods. Each Six Sigma project carried out within an organization follows a defined sequence of steps and has quantified financial targets, cost reduction and/or profit increase. The term Six Sigma originated from terminology associated with manufacturing, specifically terms associated with statistical modeling of manufacturing processes. The maturity of a manufacturing process can be described by a sigma rating indicating its yield, or the percentage of defect-free products it creates. A Six Sigma process is one in which 99.99966% of the products manufactured are statistically expected to be free of defects, 3.4 defects per million. Motorola set a goal of Six Sigma for all of its manufacturing operations, and this goal became a byword for the management and engineering practices used to achieve it.
Professor, are there problems with companies adopting a Six Sigma strategy?
The only danger, Jack, is that companies can be so focused internally on process improvements and improving operational cost savings, they lose focus on growing top-line sales. Well Jack and Ned, that should do it today for Six Sigma.
Now moving on to the next topic, we will study the gaming competitive edge through world-class manufacturing. World-class manufacturing is a different set of concepts, principles, policies and techniques for managing and operating a manufacturing company. It is driven by the results achieved by the Japanese manufacturing resurgence following World War II and adapts many of the ideas used by the Japanese in automotive, electronics and steel companies to gain a competitive edge. World-class manufacturing is a process-driven approach where implementation usually involves the following philosophies and techniques: make to order, streamlined flow, small lot sizes, families of parts, doing it right the first time, cellular manufacturer, total preventive maintenance. Companies engaging in world-class manufacturing strategies focus on improving operation, strive to eliminate waste and create lean organization. Issues world-class manufacturing is a process-driven approach to improving manufacturing operation. It is often confused to mean standard of quality and image such as Rolls-Royce or Rolex. Pragmatic application world-class manufacturing techniques. have been proven over and over time and time again and offer alternatives to the traditional capacity-driven approaches of mass production and economic order quantities. Value-added manufacturing. Value-added wood manufacturing refers to the process required to produce a wood product of greater value than value of the product in its previous form. Let us now know the meaning of value engineering. Value engineering is a function-oriented, systematic team approach and study to provide value in a product, system or service. Often this improvement is focused on cost reduction. However, other important areas such as customer perceived quality and performance are also of paramount importance in the value equation. What are the benefits of value engineering? Value engineering helps an organization in lowering O and M costs, improving quality management, improving resource efficiency, simplifying procedure, minimizing paperwork. Value engineering helps you to learn how to improve your career skills, separate symptoms from problems. How is value engineering applied? The technique of value engineering is governed by a structured decision-making process to assess the value of procedures or services. Toyota Production System. The Toyota Production System, TPS, sometimes also referred to as Lean Production System, refers to the principles and practice of lean manufacturing or lean production system. Lean manufacturing or lean production system or the Toyota Production System is a systematic elimination of all types of waste. Now in the end, let us summarize what we have learned in this lecture. Benchmarking is a continuous, systematic process of measuring one's output and or work processes against the toughest competitors or those recognized best in the industry. Benchmarking is a very versatile tool that can be applied in a variety of ways to meet a range of requirements for improvement. International benchmarking is used where partners are sought from other countries because best practitioners are located elsewhere in the world and or there are too few benchmarking partners within the same country to produce valid results. This type of benchmarking captures certain follow-up activity in companies collecting large amounts of CRM data. The Toyota Production System, TPS, is referred as Lean Production System, refers to the principles and practice of lean manufacturing of lean production system. Value engineering is a function-oriented, systematic team approach and study to provide value in a product, system or service.